day, everybody, and welcome back to Life's Learning Curve podcast. You know, recently I was thinking back about the total insanity of my teenage years, and it was funny because almost every story brought me back to one place, one experience, and that was my first teenage job, a summer job. I worked for the grounds crew for a local school district. Now, the more I thought about my 3 summers working there, the more it seemed to me that no one would believe just what went on there. This all new, true, how we became us story right here on Life's Learning Curve today. Comment or to subscribe or to listen or read our blog or to find extended info or deeper show notes. We're at our website, lifeslearningcurve.org. And on today's podcast, as the hearse looped our work area 3 times, I looked up to see 3 bald older men in black suits literally hanging out of the windows, waving around 6-packs of beer, playfully yelling at Carl.
Hey, Carl, you could be having fun working for us today.
Yeah, we're getting smashed. Remember, Carl, we need you at 4 this afternoon. I work with them at the moor. Whenever the gravedigger machine breaks down, I shovel dig graves for the cemetery. Must have broken down again. They need me after work.
I'm glad you're here with us. You're in for quite a treat today. This is another true story. It's about my first teenage job, age 16, 17, and 18. I worked summers. It was outdoors. It was for big pay for back then. And I worked with these guys who had bigger, kind of eccentric personalities than I'd ever seen before. From driving my first stick shift vehicle to a guy named Sarge blowing himself up. He's okay. It's all here, plus a whole lot more. Let's roll. Life's Learning Curve. I'm Paul Hart. That first summer job. Stand by. The trick to landing a great job, a plum job, at any age, is to first determine what jobs are out there, of course, but the ones that you might actually love doing, or even like doing. Prior to my 16th year of age, I painted doctor's offices for extra money, and it was good money, but it just wasn't in my wheelhouse of high interest. When I turned 15 years old, my parents knew more about me than I knew about myself. I didn't think so at the time, but they did, and God bless them for doing that. They knew that I needed to pay full attention to my schoolwork to come close to passing my classes. Now, I never failed a class in school, and I didn't really come close, but I just often couldn't concentrate on the content. It just did not interest me. It was interesting to note that I got great grades in certain classes, and they were the ones with teachers who applied humor, humanity, adventure, told stories, and used a lot of media or technology in the classroom content. Now, I knew I did well in school with instruction being output by these very few teachers. So, as a technology visual learner, my parents would not let me work a part-time job during the school year. See, I wanted to get a job. All my friends had jobs. At that age, I needed money for food runs. I needed money to hang with my friends. Not a lot, a little bit. I needed to pay for gasoline. And for girls, I wanted to take out girls. The summer of my 16th year, my Uncle Peter, who was my mother's brother, got not only me a plum job, but one for 2 of my friends, Rick and Steve. My Uncle Peter was the director of planning and construction for our local school district. And one spring day, he stopped by our family's house. He walked in and said,
Hello there. Hey, Paul, I've got a job offer. There's a job working for the school district outside all summer with the grounds crew, cutting grass, laying asphalt, doing sod, doing landscaping. It'd be $3 an hour, and from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., 5 days a week. You interested?
Sure.
If you have 2 other friends who might like a job and are interested too, we could use them too.
I thought to myself,
Working outside? $3 an hour?
That'd be great.
I said,
Absolutely, Uncle Peter. Thank you so much.
Now, $3 an hour was a lot of money for back then, and most of our friends worked inside and made under $2.75 or less an hour. So, just a few days later, my friend Steve, my friend Rick, and I excitedly began work by punching a clock at 7 a.m. Monday through Friday for the next 2.5 months of the summer vacation. Now, what I did not know at that time was that what I learned here on the grounds crew would be valuable for the rest of my life, particularly in the areas of life skills and character development when writing screenplays. I'll never forget our first day when we came roaring into the shop at 6:55 a.m. It was a large Quonset-type hut built on the high school perimeter, and I saw a fleet of grounds crew vehicles. Here housed large dump trucks, 2 large gang mowers, a huge gravel grader, several old U.S. Army Jeeps, and an uber-cool Army step-up van from World War II. They sat ready to go daily. Now, on that first day we entered the shop, we saw it was dirty. It was grease-filled. It was full of oil stains, and there was junk piled everywhere. Nearby, there was a desk overflowing with paperwork. A loud, aggressive, angry voice instructed us to find our time cards and punch in. Punching a clock. That was cool. The voice had come from an ex-Army guy named Sarge, a nickname, obviously. Now, Sarge smelled like liquor and cigarettes to me, and he pushed me back up against a wall and commanded,
You might think somebody else is boss, but they're not. I is you boss.
Okay,
I said.
fine with me.
From appearances, Sarge had seen better days, but I knew every team needed a leader. Sarge said to me,
How old is you?
16, Sarge.
I said,
Oh, for the love of, you're just a kid.
Then I was introduced to another grounds crew worker, a very short man with the nickname Shorty. Okay, made sense. He was about 5 feet tall, probably 50 to 55 years in age or so, and his posture was curved like a human-shaped C. That day, Shorty wanted to try to initiate the 3 of us, Rick, Steve, and I, on our first day, and we were new after all, so I guess you have initiations. Shorty had filled a large squeeze ball full of water, and he had it in his hand, and Shorty said,
Look here, boys.
When we looked, he squeezed the ball. We were supposed to be sprayed with water, but the ball broke open, saturating the front of Shorty's pants. He looked down and he said,
I wet myself.
and everyone laughed. Shorty said,
Oh, it looks like I did.
Steve, Rick, and I didn't laugh. We just kind of looked at one another. This was a new, uncharted environment for us, and we weren't sure of exactly what was happening. These grounds crew guys could be putting us on, or maybe this was actually who they were. We just couldn't tell. I looked at Rick, and Rick looked back at me, and he said in his deep baritone voice,
Well, this is odd. You don't see that every day.
But, oh, by the way, boys,
said Shorty.
I'll be the one, I guess, to tell you what to do. So I'll be your boss while you're here.
Okay, Shorty. Okay.
Next, Rick, Steve, and I were pulled outside by another man. This guy was sporting a round Santa-like belly. His name was Win, who was very angry, and he angrily pushed his finger into all 3 of our chests, one at a time,
You.
and yelled,
You ain't taking your orders from me. Win. Those other guys think they're the boss, but I am, not them.
Okay, Win.
Okay, thanks, Win.
You got it, Win.
the 3 of us said.
Who is the actual boss here?
Steve said to Rick and me. Our question was about to be answered because I saw my Uncle Peter's vehicle pull into the lot. Sarge looked up and said,
What's he don't her? He don't never come her.
My Uncle Peter entered the shop area, and everyone stopped and looked up. My Uncle Peter said,
Good morning, guys. I see you met your high school summer add-ons. This is Paul, Rick, and Steve. You treat these boys with respect and make sure they understand what to do on the job sites. If you or the new boys have any questions, you come and see me.
My friend Steve looked at me and smiled slightly. We were glad my uncle had stopped by, but we still wondered why Sarge, Shorty, and Win all thought they were in charge. There was an abundance of bosses. They couldn't all be in charge, could they? Then Sarge said to my uncle,
Who's the new boss now, huh?
My Uncle Peter explained to everyone.
I know we just had a funeral for Booker. He was a good man and great boss for all you guys. He'll be missed. But it's a new day and we're all back to work.
I leaned over and whispered to my friend Steve.
Bugger? Was that his name?
Rick whispered.
I think it was, Booger.
Steve said.
Really? Booger?
Now, we were serious and very confused. Everyone seemed to have a nickname at this place, and the recently deceased boss's name was Bugger or Booker or Booger or something. Regardless, the old boss had passed away, and the men here wanted to know just who was in charge. Sarge said,
I got the most years in here. Seniority. I'm the boss now. Right?
Shorty said,
I'm the boss. I'm sure I am.
Then I heard Win burst out angrily.
That turns it!
In the background, we heard another grounds crew worker named Tony say the F word. We soon discovered that Tony used that word so frequently that from now on in this podcast, I'm just going to say the word fire truck for Tony's constant F word.
Fire check,
said Tony, and my Uncle Peter continued talking.
No one's the new boss yet, gentlemen. We're interviewing today.
Today's fire check,
said Tony. Tony was a character study. He was a hard, tough-talking guy from the inner city, and he proudly boasted of his heritage and wore it like a badge of honor. A very, very proud man. Like an artist, Tony created a profane-laced dialogue just as if he was being paid for how many times he could say the F word every day. Later, we found Tony to be kind of creepy. And he always had I tell you what, you just pay me now, and I'll bring you something tomorrow. If you need watches, pop, beer, liquor, if your mom needs an appliance, a stove, or refrigerator, you just pay me today, I bring it tomorrow. Whatever you want, I got it and I can get it for you tomorrow. Tony seemed quite connected somehow, and none of us ever took Tony up on his offers. As my uncle drove off that day, I noticed there were 3 others in the room we hadn't met. Nearby was a scary-looking, huge man, about 6'5", who had no expression on his face, and he didn't move. He just looked grim. Kind of Frankenstein-like. Shorty said to us,
Oh, that's Carl. He don't talk much. He hand digs graves at the cemetery across the road. When they don't need him, we get him.
Carl smelled like dried sweat, and I had a feeling that Carl bathed every day, but he did not wash his work clothes every day. Later, I would learn that Carl was a gentle giant of a man who had never hurt a fly, but his size and smell were intimidating, and he had that whole graveyard gig thing. In the opposite corner, a spirited, kind of disconnected man whistled an upbeat tune as he used a grinder to sharpen his cutting tools, and sparks flew in every direction in the greasy, oil-filled room. He stopped and he looked up, and in a very quiet tone, he smiled and he said,
Come over here, boys. They call me Mr. Excitement around here. I don't know why. I do the tree trimming here at Grounds. Maybe we will be lucky enough to work together. Huh?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, okay.
Hey, What do you guys think of Olivia Newton-John?
My friend Steve just responded, she's good, yeah. Mr. Excitement went back to whistling, and the belt-driven grinder aggressively sharpened his arsenal of primeval cutting tools. Later, we discovered working a full day with Mr. Excitement was like watching beige paint dry on an already beige wall. He put all of his tools on the seat of the truck before he left the shop, lined them up. I noticed that when driving to a job site, nearly every time Mr. Excitement turned a corner, the tools fell off the seat to the floor of the cab. And he would pull the truck over and replace them in their proper places on the seat. So it took forever to get Mr. Excitement and his tools to a job site. Now, I worked a week with him once, and we only trimmed one tree out of maybe 25 trees on that property. And he was very thorough, and he was highly inefficient. Each day I worked with him, I can honestly say, truthfully, without any exaggeration, he would always ask me what I thought of Olivia Newton-John. He always would emphasize the Newton part.
What do you think of Olivia Newton-John?
It was obvious that he liked her look. He smiled broadly when he spoke of her. Rounding out the group was a quiet, laid-back man named the Birdman, his nickname. He was called this because he raced pigeons as a hobby in his off time. Birdman drove the largest gang mower tractor, and he mowed daily. That was his permanent job. No assignment for him, he mowed every day. Birdman always was the voice of clarity and reason. He was not boss material, but rather an intelligent guy who preferred working on his own and had earned that privilege. That first day was critical and full of new learning for all three of us. We were dispatched to 6 schools that day. We were to mow around trees on school properties so Birdman could come in with the large gang mowers and not have to risk getting caught in the roots or hitting trees. Okay, that made sense. Our mowing tools would be 1 lawn mower and 2 large, destructive and powerful Briggs & Stratton 4-horsepower weed chopper mowers. Each mower had a self-propulsion switch. These machines, these mowers, were frightening, and even the guys at the shop were leery of using them. They had an open, unprotected blade that would rotary cut through anything, even cans, bicycles, slate metal, glass, that were all left in overgrown grassy areas or ditches. We immediately began to understand that the three of us would be working in flooded areas, on steep slopes, and virtually any unmowable area with these killer mowers. We were assigned 2 Jeeps to load the mowers. I drove one and Rick drove the other. When Steve and I got into my Jeep, I saw basic. A key switch, a headlight switch, a switch to operate the winch in the front of the Jeep, which we would never use, and toggle bars for when the Jeep was used as a plow in the winter. Sarge quickly approached the window of the driver where I sat, and he said,
You can drive a stick shift, right?
I didn't even pause. I heard myself say,
Sure can, Sarge.
Steve laughed because none of us at all had driven a stick shift manual transmission up to that point. But we learned quickly how a manual transmission worked. I had a basic idea of how a clutch worked in cadence with the shifter. I knew about driving a manual transmission just a little bit from all the riding mowers I'd used in the past. I knew the shift pattern as well. My reality was that I had never driven a vehicle with stick shift before. I learned quickly that day. These were vehicles that did not have the smoothest clutch transitions. I remember jerking that vehicle out of the shop area and remained in first gear for about a quarter mile. And that was when Steve smiled and laughed, and we both determined that maybe second gear would really improve my speed. As we drove off away from the shop, I vaguely heard Sarge and Tony. They were watching us drive away.
Fire truck.
Muttered Tony. Muttered Sarge. Now, I can tell you this. After driving multiple vehicles at the grounds crew shop for over 3 summers, you can bet that my next 2 vehicles approaching my adulthood years were manual transmissions. I grew to love a car that you could upshift, downshift. There's plenty of play and fun when driving them. What remains from my summers at grounds crew for 3 summers are kind of memory flashes and short stories. One time, Steve and I were assigned to mow a severely angled downslope ditch just outside one of the high schools. My mower was Killer 1. Now, Killer, that was what we began to call this somewhat dangerous mower that we used. There was Killer 1 and Killer 2. Killer 1 never ceased. It just kept going. It just drove through everything. When they began forward motion, these mowers, it seemed like they could possibly mow through cement. We always mowed facing away from the traffic. We didn't want to throw any grass or anything up into the traffic. But there always was one swatch we had to mow blowing into traffic. So we watched out for cars. And when there were no cars, we would cut that one swatch. When all was clear, we mowed that final swath. That day I saw all was clear, and I proceeded to mow the final cut, shooting grass onto the road. What I neglected was the power of that mower, and even though the road was clear of traffic, I saw the following happen. Killer 1 and I were on the slope, and the mower hit and unearthed a large chunk of dirt. Large. This would seize the engine of any other mower, but not Killer 1. I watched as this chunk of dirt kind of went into slow motion, and I watched it fly through the air. It seemed like it went 30 to 40 feet, and it came down. And when it did come down, it went through an open window of a vehicle which had already passed me. The car was filled with teenage boys about my age, and I heard kind of a muffled sound. I heard, at least that's what I recall. No injuries, no damage. Just dirt through the open window. Now, whoever that was, I apologize. Now, another time we were told to use the killer mowers was to mow down the very tall, overgrown grass which surrounded a large water holding area. Almost immediately, we discovered that the high, wet, grassy area was packed with garter snakes. It was the perfect environment for snakes, but we didn't know that until we began mowing. Now, I like snakes, but that day the mower just could not avoid them. Many snakes lost their slithery lives that day. A local policeman from the town of Wayne, Illinois stopped by to tell us they had received a report from some people on a nearby bike path. They reported seeing flying snakes that day. It was kind of unsettling, but oddly normal for that type of job we did. Now, I never thought this snake mowing incident was funny or good for the snakes or amusing, but it was just uncomfortable. After I got back to the shop that day, Sarge came up to me and said,
You didn't hit no snakes, did you?
Then he laughed for too long of a time. Sarge could be one weird piece of work. Another time we returned to the shop at quitting time, as the men all called it, only to hear an explosion, a pretty loud one, in the depths of the truck repair area. Now, apparently Sarge had been working with a propane torch in the closed bed of a dump truck. Almost immediately, when Sarge sparked the torch, or maybe he lit a new cigarette, I don't know, it set off an explosion. And apparently all that clean-burning gas had accumulated in the bed of the truck. It was invisible. When Tony and I ran to the back truck bay, we saw Sarge literally hanging on a rafter about 3 feet above the truck. His clothes were smoking just a little, and his glasses were crooked and rested up on his head.
Fire truck,
exclaimed Tony.
Sarge blowed up.
Later, the paramedics told us that Sarge may have a concussion because he was talking unclearly and in gibberish, kind of incoherently. It was hard and nearly impossible explaining in a proactive way that was the way Sarge spoke in real life, but they didn't believe us. But in a day, Sarge was back to work and all the wiser and no less coherent than before. Now, Sarge did not like looking bad in front of the others. Didn't like blowing up, I guess. And most definitely, he had just canceled out his chance of being boss or shop foreman. For the next 3 days, every day, Sarge warned the 3 new guys.
Don't ever light your cigarette while using a propane torch.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Sarge.
Good to know.
One time I recall I was reassigned away from the grounds crew to another department in the school district called maintenance. They needed extra manpower for a couple weeks, and the result of my 2 weeks away from grounds crew? Well, I was turned in to the union and put on probation for 1 week. The reason? Working too hard. True. In year 3 of my tenure at the grounds crew, new higher-ups had replaced my uncle who had taken a new job in Nashville, Tennessee. I recall that I was helping out in maintenance and we were delivering by truck desks to a lot of different schools. The guys I worked with had very little personality, but they liked to complain, and they complained often, and it became, unfortunately, contagious. Each person I worked with despised their job. Most of the guys were in their 30s, and they hated their lives as well. They were the type of guys that when they got out or in a vehicle, they would utter, as if that was just the hardest thing they had ever done. And often that was just them getting into a truck for the first time in the morning. They were 30 years old and they were going, just a bad habit. I missed working with Sarge and Shorty and Carl and Tony, and as I said, for some reason I got turned into their union for working too hard. As it was explained to me by the new higher-up who had replaced my uncle, his name was Mr. Philbin.
Paul, you do not fit in. These are men who take their time and make each day last.
I asked if I should slow down or not try as hard, and after a long pause, our new boss, Mr. Philbin, said,
Yes.
I was about to enter college that fall, and I knew I would not be coming back to a job like this. Too much hate, too much resentment, too much apathy, and too much laziness. These were all things I had not experienced with the grounds crew in previous years. I never went back to maintenance, but rather was reassigned to the grounds crew with all my quirky friends to finish out that third summer.
What's the fire truck? It's Paul. Welcome back, my friends.
There was Tony, Sarge, Shorty. Now Wynn even gave me a slight wave. It was Shorty that said,
You know, them guys in maintenance don't work too hard, do they?
No, not like you guys here, Shorty, I said.
That's how we got these plum jobs, and they don't got them,
said Shorty. Mr. Excitement then added,
You've got to earn this to get placement here, Paul. We're all different, but we bring something to offer here.
I was beginning to understand this unique bunch of guys a little bit better. These weren't misfits, but rather all talented pieces of a much larger puzzle. About once every summer, the huge gravel grader would be needed, and the only grounds crew member with proper license to drive it was Sarge. The grader was about the size of a mobile home. It was big. Maybe it was bigger. I don't know. It was just big. Apparently, it was a temperamental vehicle, and it often stalled. Sarge was the only one who could get it running. Everybody knew that. One week, we needed that grader because we were resurfacing a football field at the westernmost high school. Each day we saw Sarge leave the shop driving that grader to the job site about 5 miles away. He even left before we left the shop for the site. However, each day that grader broke down directly in front of Sammy's Donuts, where we received a call for a tow sometime after 1 p.m. each day. Now, what Sarge did between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. each day is still a mystery, but I can say Sarge always came back to the shop with powdered sugar all over his face and jelly stains on his already sweat-stained white t-shirt.
Good donut.
The grader and Sarge never did reach the job site, not even once. However, Sarge did put on a few pounds. Do you have a couple donuts there, Sarge?
Grader broke down.
Now, my last story today took place very near the shop. We were not far away. We were working very close to a shop and a school nearby. We were planting bushes and doing landscaping outside of a new school building. As we all worked, I heard a loud vehicle approaching with no muffler. As it got closer, I looked up. It was a funeral home hearse from the cemetery across the street. As the hearse looped our work area 3 times, I looked up to see 3 bald older men in black suits literally hanging out of the windows, waving around 6-packs of beer, playfully yelling at Carl.
Hey, Carl, you could be having fun working for us today.
Yeah, we're getting smashed. Remember, Carl, we need you at 4 this afternoon.
Yeah, we're getting smashed. Remember, Carl, we need you at 4 this afternoon.
With the fire truck, what's their deal?
Asked Tony. Now, usually extremely quiet, Carl began to chuckle.
Oh, look at those guys. I work with them at the morgue. Whenever the gravedigger machine breaks down, I shovel dig graves for the cemetery. Must have broke it down again. They need me after work.
Rick, Steve, and I looked at each other and couldn't help it. We laughed out loud. The situation was just too funny. This seemed like adult insanity to us. We were beginning to relax in front of the guys we worked with. We all laughed with each other and at one another sometimes, but it was good-natured humor. I recall Rick saying something that's been etched in my brain ever since, and I've said this on the podcast before. I remember Rick saying,
Paul, you can't write stuff like this. No one would believe it.
He was right. I will never forget the mortician's beer run done on Carl by the mortuary and cemetery workers in that modified no-muffler hearse. For 3 years, Steve, Rick, and I all heard our friends complain about their summer jobs and how much they hated their bosses, or maybe how much they despised the work they had to do. Rick and Steve and I knew we had the best job ever. We were outside all day. We were making big money, at least for that time. And we were getting to coexist with a cast of characters from Caddyshack or something. These guys were just the best. Not common, unusual, quirky. The job itself that we did was manual labor, and it was hot, and it was hard, and it was sweaty days of work. And I often came home exhausted, but I loved it. I liked the guys too. Where else could I find such diverse co-workers? In a lot of ways, my first job as a teenager, those summers at Grounds Crew, helped shape me into the person I am today. It taught me the value of hard work and the importance of being dedicated and committed and getting a job done, showing up on time as well. And I also found out that it was okay to work with unusual or quirky characters. You can learn from them and be entertained. And also that proud feeling you get when you earn your own money. So if you have the luxury, find something that excites you and doesn't feel like work. Take advantage of that job. Now, to this day,
currently, right now. I still use a shovel based on a technique Shorty showed me way back when I was a teenager.
Here, boy, try it this way.
Grounds crew was never glamorous, and I knew I'd never be doing this as a career, but everyone has to start somewhere. So for 3 years in my teenage years, my friend Steve, my friend Rick, and I had the very best plum job. For Life's Learning Curve, I'm Paul Hart. Life's Learning Curve podcast is put together by producer Paul Hart with assistance by Herb Gathman, Don Perna, and Sebastian T. Dog. We're mixed by Heidi Cerner, technical director Hal McDonald. As always, music and audio assistance by Riley Hart. Our podcast content and voice replication is intended for entertainment purposes only. On today's show, special thanks to Russ Wilkinson and the boys at Grounds Crew. You guys will live on forever. Check out the website, lifeslearningcurve.org. Leave a comment, but please subscribe. We'd love to have you. As always, find us on Facebook and Instagram and listen to us almost everywhere podcasts are heard. I'm Paul Hart, and we will be back soon with more from Life's Learning Curve.